Welcome, one and all, to PACIFIC414 episode review. I'm your host, Mike, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you my review of episode 2 of The Old Man, starring Jeff Bridges. Episode 2 begins in the desert some 30 years prior to the events that are currently going on in the series, where we see a young Dan Chase and a young Harold Harper, and they're discussing a few things that are going on as far as Dan Chase going rogue and wanting some weapons to help out what's supposed to be an enemy, yet Dan Chase is convinced this enemy is actually one of the good guys. Azad Hazin is the character's name. Harold and Dan go on about what's happening, how the US government will go in after him if he chooses the wrong side. Harold believes he has. Dan says, "Bring my weapons." Harold gives him an ultimatum: choose one side, you choose another. Either way, someone's going to come after you. Then they depart, and we fast forward to present day, where Dan Chase is on the run. He pulls into an old junkyard. Once he gets inside the junkyard, he starts replacing some tires on his Jeep that was damaged in episode 1 after some agents spotted him and tried to apprehend him. Once he gets back out on the road with a new license plate on his Jeep and also the new tires, we meet Amy Brenneman as Zoe, and we find out that Zoe is divorced. She has a son. Her ex-husband still owns the property. Dan greets her warmly. She meets Dave and Carol, Dan's 2 dogs, and tells Dan that dogs aren't allowed on the property. The listing should have said that. And what ends up happening is Dan ends up having a conversation with her, making her a meal, and then Zoe says, "All right, fine, you can stay, but 2 months rent, you cook me a meal 3 days a week, and you buy the groceries." Then we see present day Harold Harper, and he's talking to one of the agents, Agent Waters. Agent Waters is getting very suspicious of some activity between Harold and Dan. He fears that Harold has gotten too close to the case, wants Harold taken off the case. Harold says, "You don't know this man like I do. I need to be here." Then Harold leaves and he meets up with an old friend. This old friend is actually a mentor of both Harold Harper and Dan Chase. We get a little bit more of the back history between not just Harold and Dan, but also this other gentleman. Then we see Zoe and Dan again. Dan, by this time, is going under the assumed name Peter Caldwell. What ends up happening is Zoe asks Dan out to dinner with her. So they go out to dinner. They have a conversation. They bring up their past relationships. The last time Zoe was on a date was during George Herbert Walker Bush's administration. They get into a little bit more history, find out a little bit more about 2 characters, or at least what we assume to be information about Dan Chase, considering he is on the run. Zoe starts talking about her son at one point. The next thing we see is Harold Harper showing up at the FBI building. There's a birthday party going on for one of the agents named Joe. At that point, Harold starts finding out more information thanks to Agent Adams, who has some information about Dan's daughter, who we find out is actually deceased. We then go back to Zoe and Dan, where they arrive at a police checkpoint. It's at this police checkpoint where Zoe and Dan are asked to get out of their vehicles. They do. We see that Dan has a pocket knife and he cuts the throat of one of the officers. Then he shoots the other officer and shoots Zoe, but there's a catch to all that. That was nothing but a fantasy by Dan. We are brought back to actual reality, where Dan is told to drive for his quote-unquote wife, since Zoe said to the officers, "He's my husband." We cut to a scene back at Zoe's place, and we find out that Zoe's ex-husband has been shorting her on the alimony payments. Because of that, his admittance into a class has been denied because of the payment shortage. Then we cut back to Harold, and Harold is talking to someone on the phone, and that someone is being charged with finding Dan and bringing him in. And the one assurance that Harold Harper wants is to know that this guy can get the job done because he doesn't really understand what he's up against. That was a brief rundown of what happened in this episode. 2 episodes in, and this show is cooking on all cylinders. It is very good. You know, it's one of those spy thrillers, action thrillers, as I said before, although I will admit in this episode there wasn't any action in it. It was more following the case, connecting the dots, and seeing where it all leads. And so far where it all leads is Dan has everybody on a wild goose chase. It's only up to the FBI agents who are in charge of the case who have to find Dan and apprehend him before Farad Hazim. What did I think of this episode overall? This episode, if I'm going to give it a rating, is another 4.5 out of 5. Very good episode. Again, very good performances by John Lithgow, Amy Brenneman, Jeff Bridges, top notch as always. But of course, this series itself is top notch. It's very entertaining. It keeps everything flowing very nicely. You're not bored at any time, at least I can say that for myself. I can't say that for you. As I'm watching this, I'm not bored at any time. I'm glued in as to what's going on and finding out more and more about the past between Harold and Dan. Or in this episode, and as Dan's referred to, is John, which is his alias. If you haven't checked this series out yet, I do highly recommend it. It's a solid series. You won't be bored, and you'll be thoroughly entertained. Thank you for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it. Hope you all have yourselves a great morning, afternoon, evening, weekday, weekend. If you like what you saw here, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like what you saw here, give it a thumbs down. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. Share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the PACIFIC414 YouTube channel. Remember, I'm not just a baseball guy, I'm an all-around guy. Have a good day, everyone.